Coaching and supporting neurodiverse athletes. It is a special kind of coaching because it's a combination of understanding an athlete's mindset, understanding priorities for an athlete, understanding the amount of drive that it has taken to get to that level, and then also understanding and merging in that different thinking, that different comprehension at times of things, that different processing speed, and understanding how sensitive at times their brains can be as athletes to outside influences, such as an injury, such as whole changes in diets, such as environments, how that can shift things up, and all of a sudden something that wasn't an issue or wasn't even noticed before all of a sudden becomes a thing. I don't talk about this often because it's not something I've signed a lot of NDAs. So there's not a lot I can say about the people that I work with in this environment. What I can say is they are incredible. And because of the environment they're in and sometimes the money that's available to them, the challenges that come with it would be minor if not for all of that money and influence around them. Causing the dyslexia, causing the short-term memory issues, causing some of those things to even be more amplified. There's a lot of additional stress and anxiety that's associated, that comes with it. Obviously, they've learned to process that at a level. And what I found is quite often when big changes are happening, moving from one environment to another, moving from from one team to another, moving locations, having coaches change out, that type of situation can definitely spark an environment that creates a catalyst and a role in a direction that nobody intended, but the neurology got triggered. And there we are, struggling and not having words for it and not quite understanding why there's such a great struggle. And that's kind of the environment. So I'm going to check my notes real quick. Don't lose me here. But why athletes seek out extra help. I've actually only been contacted twice by the athletes themselves. And really it was somebody close in their environment that reached out to me as to be a buffer to make sure that I could be trusted and so forth. Otherwise, I'm usually actually sought out by coaches and by agents that are watching their clients or their athlete struggle and wondering what in the world. We've applied everything that we know. Something's not matching. The sports psychologist is even confused, like it's not quite making sense. And those have been some environments where I've been brought in and able to be like, oh, hey, I can talk this. I know this language. And it's really been helpful for them to have clarity and to understand what's happening and to get the right type of support that feels like support and doesn't feel like it will just shape up or this will just fix itself in a couple of weeks. Usually I'm brought in after the couple of weeks have passed and we're into, oh my goodness, how do we cut this off? How do we make this not happen and discontinue from happening and any further? So some of the things coaches and agents might notice is just routines, multi-step, like they're all of a sudden their routines and so forth are really not what they normally are. And they're having a hard time regaining that momentum in those routines. Also, possibly their focus is really off. They're going through playbooks. They're, getting the proper feedback and the coaching, and they're just having a heck of a time applying it. And so they're kind of all of a sudden not growing and expanding. In particular, I had one client who all of a sudden started showing up to everything late. Like nobody could understand it, but late to practice, late to team meetings, late to just about everything. And we really had to dig deep as to figure out why that was happening. Also, sometimes it can create all of a sudden a fatigue because so much mental energy is going in a direction. Had a client with a big coaching change and new coach and then whole new assistant coaches and support staff. And the way they talked, the way they shared information was so cognitively draining for this client that it overloaded their system, and they just started to slowly kind of just shut down and not be able to retain some information. So we made some small adjustments, and that worked out really well. It's knowing those types of things that means having the right coach for the right situation. And that's where having a neurodivergent coach who also can work with athletes is important. And from my end as a coach, it's really fun because I can see their success on a bigger level. And when they're on television or something, it's quite interesting. So they don't always have to report back to me. I can see their success happening in real time. I can also sometimes see their struggles in real time. That is a little different in coaching. I can't do that with all of my other clients. So that's kind of a fun thing for me. And some of the things to also know about coaching athletes and what that can look like is it's also it's confidence outside of. I've been brought in for a couple of athletes as they were injured and they were not going to be able to return back to the career and the lifestyle and the world that they had built for their entire lives. They had dreamed of, and all of a sudden the goal had, their life had shifted, and they weren't obviously prepared for that. And their neurodivergent brain got really hijacked and started to self-sabotage. They brought back all sorts of baggage from childhood about how they thought their life would turn out, and they were unpacking it in the moment, which did not need any of that. And we were able to stay that off, cut that off, clean that up, and then get them focused on the space ahead and what opportunities were ahead and how they could take the learnings from their experience and as an athlete and how they could give back and how they could use that as a catalyst, actually in business, in particular for one client, which was incredible to see that growing. All of this has to be very personally designed. It all has to be very specific, and it all has to be under very much lock and key. And so coaching athletes who are neurodivergent is a definite different environment. And I have worked hard to understand that and to be able to be there for them. And I just don't talk about it enough. And I wanted to take a moment to honor and appreciate those athletes out there that have risen to incredible success with their neurodivergent gifts and talents, but also with some of the weaknesses that come with that. I'm so impressed and so proud. And every time I hear of another athlete described as having ADHD or autism or dyslexia or anxiety, or struggling with depression, I always just kind of laugh and go, well, yay, and not surprising. It's a really stressful environment, and it takes an incredibly resilient person to be in that space. So I love that more and more athletes are stepping forward to say, oh, hey, I've got a different thinking brain. It helps me in many ways, and in some other ways, I just got to protect it and know how to handle it. So if you are an agent, if you are a coach, if you are a good friend of someone who is a prime athlete, that is their primary career, and you see them struggling and are not sure how best to help, having a conversation with an exclusive coach who understands that could be game-changing for them. So I highly recommend you make an introduction for us. I'm Georgina, unconventional leadership coach, neurodiversity, success coach internationally, encouraging you to go out and have an amazing day and get heavily involved in your game and your strengths. Bye now.